Crystal Theobald spent her last few minutes on Earth with her family. That is their one and only consolation. When she passed away in a senseless act by the powerful 5150 gang, her family set out on a decades-long journey through the darkest annals of social media to bring the killers to justice. As Crystal and her family jumped in their cars on a February night in 2006, they noticed a white Ford Expedition drive slowly by. It was loaded down with people all looking at the Theobald family. The Theobalds left their Riverside, California home and headed to the local 7-Eleven, only a few miles away. Mom, Belinda Lane, left first in her car. Her kids, Crystal, Justin, and Crystal's boyfriend Juan, followed behind in Crystal's Honda Accord. When Belinda reached the first stop sign, she noticed the Expedition was in front of her, and it was slowly doing a U-turn. She looked to the right and saw a man standing beside the stop sign. Pulling through the stop, Belinda slowed to look back and check on her children in the rearview mirror. That's when she witnessed the unthinkable. At approximately 8:43 p.m., Crystal and her carload of family pulled up to the stop sign. The man standing beside it raised his arm and fired a gun into the car over and over again. As shrapnel tore through the car, it coasted to the curb of the 7-Eleven. Justin and Juan jumped out of the car, and Justin pulled out the lifeless body of his sister. Justin's stomach had a hole ripped through it, but he called for help for his sister. But it was too late. The last thing Belinda was able to give her daughter was a promise to find the people who did this to her and bring them to justice. Riverside, California is notoriously rife with gang activity. One of the most dangerous is the 5150. Gang experts say the name comes from the police code for people who have come unhinged and could possibly harm themselves or others. In the criminal underworld, it means someone who isn't afraid to put their life on the line for their gang family. Belinda was sure they had something to do with her daughter's demise. Nothing else made sense. And that's the first thing she told police on the scene. Belinda's home was in rival gang MD-17 territory. There had been a recent conflict between the MDs and the 5150 who had taken to invading MD territory to take their revenge. Authorities had her look through a book of mugshots, and she positively identified a young Hispanic man as the one she saw standing by the stop sign. Police pulled him in for questioning, but he had a rock-solid alibi. Belinda realized she'd made a mistake, but it caused her an even bigger problem. Police no longer considered her information reliable. From now on, she was on her own. Belinda and her family were desperate for some answers in Crystal's case. Belinda's niece, Jamie McIntyre, thought she might have the answer. Jamie was just 14 years old in 2006. It was the height of the Myspace phenomenon, and she was just the right age to be a pro. She knew every aspect of the social media platform, from page design to messaging and account settings. There was no part of MySpace she hadn't mastered. When her brother told her that she thought some of the 5150 members responsible for Crystal's demise were on MySpace, she decided to help her aunt track them down. Jamie scoured the internet for pics of pretty young girls to set up a fake MySpace account. She designed it to look like an account from a woman 5150 members would gravitate to and named her Rebecca.
I knew how to make it look like this girl on MySpace is real. It looked like I belonged.
Then she began searching out the known gang members. Each time she found one, she would add their top 8 friends to her friends list. Soon, she had a friends list full of potential killers. One by one, she contacted each member and began forging friendships. For a few weeks, it was mostly harmless, flirty instant messages. Soon, she started to probe for information. The first step was to find who drove a white Ford Expedition. In the meantime, police were looking into Belinda's sons, Robbie and Justin, to see if they were involved. something that seemed like a waste of time to her. Police thought otherwise. The family was known to have legal troubles, and the investigators discovered the events of the fateful night began with Robbie. He was the first to see the Ford Expedition just a few minutes before the rest of the family as he sat parked outside the house, talking to a friend. He got spooked as it drove by uber slowly and sped off down the road. The Expedition gave chase. He was able to lose them. When he pulled up to his ex-girlfriend's house a few moments later, he heard the news about his sister, Crystal. Police could corroborate his story, but the family's history of trouble with law enforcement kept them on the list of potential culprits, a move the family thought was slowing the investigation. So they amped up their Myspace experiment. The Rebecca persona wasn't getting the answers they wanted. Belinda decided to use actual pictures of Crystal with the name Angel. The profile immediately took off. Men seemed to love her, especially 5150 members. In just a few hours, William Sotelo, a proud and well-known member of the 5150, sent Angel a friend request. It didn't take long for Jamie/Angel to capture his full attention. He simultaneously bragged about being a ruthless gang member and told her his dreams of becoming a famous chef one day. He sent her romantic messages about giving her the world and empathized with her about her fictitious mother who was locked up for substance charges. When he tried to get her to meet in real life, she learned he drove a white Ford Expedition. Belinda informed the police of what she had found out, and they had no choice but to take her seriously when she showed them the Myspace accounts and all the messages from 5150 members they received. The next step for police was to find the aspiring chef, William Sotelo, or Jokes, as he was known on the streets. Police found him and brought him in for questioning, where they told him that his car was identified in Crystal's case. At first, he denied everything and played dumb. But when investigators addressed him as Jokes, he soon agreed to tell his side of the story. According to him, he had a car full of friends just driving around in a rival gang's, the MD's, territory. As they came past another white expedition, its occupants started firing at him. He said that he was about to drive off, but his friend Julio, Little Heredia, wanted to get out and wait at the stop sign for the other expedition to roll up. The problem for William was that there were no holes in his vehicle. There was no evidence the Theobald family had fired on them. William claimed that he never saw Little Herrero again. Police believed him because neither had they. He hadn't been seen on the street involved in the usual mischief where they usually found him. He wasn't at the gatherings of gang members they broke up on the street corners. He seemed to have just disappeared. There was no legal reason to hold William, and the police depended upon his cooperation, so they let him go. Other people in the car with him that night were Manuel Tripper Lemos and his brother William Rascal Lemos. Police pulled them in for questioning. At first, Manuel refused to cooperate, but when the gang burned down his parents' home, he decided to tell everything he knew. Manuel explained to the police that while they were out riding around that night, a friend and fellow 5150 member told them that he had been confronted by an MD member earlier while he had his daughter with him. Little Herrero wanted to retaliate, so they drove into Crystal's neighborhood. They drove by the Theobald home and saw the Honda Accord they believed belonged to an MD and waited for it at the stop sign. While police were busy questioning gang members, Crystal's family was still uncovering dirt on Myspace. Belinda had become obsessed. She contacted rival gangs and told them where Sotelo lived and what he drove, causing a rash of white expeditions to be vandalized. In a moment of weakness, Belinda sent William a Myspace message telling him Angel was actually the woman in the car, the woman who lost her hopes and dreams. He never replied. In fact, he disappeared from Myspace and California. For the next 5 years, police searched for both William Sotelo and Julio Heredia. They searched high and low, even performing a large sweep through gang territories, bursting into homes and searching through 30 to 50 houses at a time. Finally, in 2011, police got a tip that Julio Little Herrero Heredia was in Mexico. They informed Mexican authorities, and he was taken into custody. William Sotelo was located and taken into custody in 2016, also in Mexico. He took a plea deal and received a 22-year sentence.
A man arrested in Mexico last Friday has been linked to a 2006 authorities believed is gang-related.
Julio Heredia was condemned in 2011 and was sentenced to life behind bars without the possibility of parole. Other gang associates were sentenced to lesser charges, including conspiracy, and received terms averaging a few years each. What do you think kept investigators from closing this case sooner? Do you think Belinda's Myspace investigation helped or hurt the police investigation? Leave your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.